Welcome back, y'all, to another edition of Confederate Shop's Hidden Gem of the Week. This is where I take one book out of my library and I tell you why you should have it on your bookshelf. So this week, this book comes just in time for America's 250th anniversary. This July 4th, 2026, marks 250 years since 1776. And so that's why this book I'm going to present to you today is very significant. It's about one of America's most iconic figures. He was a Southern agrarian, he was a Virginian, and he was the author of the Declaration of Independence, America's second president. If you don't know who it is already, it's Thomas Jefferson. And I have this beautiful hardback book, The True Thomas Jefferson by William Elleroy Curtis, and this is really a treasure. You've probably noticed that the agenda today is mostly against Confederate icons. They're doing their best to destroy our landmarks, our statues, rename buildings. Well, the same agenda is actually happening with Thomas Jefferson in Charlottesville, Virginia. Now, Charlottesville, Virginia is really made significant by Thomas Jefferson because he founded the University of Virginia. You know, sadly, what they're actually doing is in 2021, they removed one of his statues. They also took down the Lewis and Clark statue because they deemed it offensive because Sacagawea was in a submissive position, and they decided to take that down. Now, that's significant with Thomas Jefferson because he is the one who commissioned them to go out west. But furthermore, they took down his statue in 2021. The university has taken down plaques. They've also reinterpreted much of their history in the town surrounding Thomas Jefferson. Now, you might ask why, but I think most of us know why. This is the woke Marxist propaganda. They must have our beloved historical figures demonized. This is just part of their deconstructionist playbook in Marxism itself. So it's not just about Confederate history, it's about early American history too. And they're not just doing it with Thomas Jefferson, they're doing it with James Madison and George Washington and Patrick Henry and all the other significant historical figures that founded this constitutional republic. And that's why this is such an important book today. In The True Thomas Jefferson by William Elleroy Curtis, you get a version of Jefferson that most people have never heard of. It's one that's not filtered through today's politics or textbook gloss. You get a genuine real history. And this book was printed nearly over 100 years ago. I mean, early 1900s. And what I've personally enjoyed about this book is the little small facts that I had no clue about. You know, for one, Jefferson was obsessed with detail, so he recorded temperatures and wind direction. You've probably heard of the almanac and such. He was one of those kind of people, a walking science lab. So Curtis dives into stuff like that, not just the big speeches and the Declaration, but really the quirks and habits, private letters that show you how Jefferson's mind worked. You know, Curtis doesn't shy away from the contradictions of Jefferson's life either. You know, there were things like Jefferson talking about liberty, but also owning slaves, or his hatred for centralized power, but doubling the size of the country with the Louisiana Purchase. You know, none of these things are off the table. Curtis in this book really, he does outline all of those things, but he presents them to you for the viewer to decide what to do with them. You know, how did Jefferson reconcile these things within himself? Curtis talks about that too. So he's a great historian. So that's another great recommendation for this book. So you can get that this week on sale. And I also have a few other significant titles for the anniversary of the 250th anniversary of America. I have a beautiful hardback copy of the Declaration of Independence. And these are like collector's items too, because I also have the United States Constitution and I have the Bill of Rights, all in the same kind of format, just different colors. So all of these are available on ConfederateShop.com. And of course, you can't forget, I have to throw in a mug here. I've been drinking out of this morning. It's our Kiss My Rebel Ass mug. And I've sold a ton of these things. It's more of a tongue-in-cheek joke, you know. Don't y'all get so offended over it, please. Also, I'm wearing the Make Dixie Great Again hat. This has been a huge, huge item for us too. So I'm wearing this today to the shop. And those are the items that I'm presenting this week, so I hope you all enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my work here on ConfederateShop.com.